There we go.
And we are live. Good morning, Chad. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Friday, NFP. All the degenerates ready to throw some volume, some full margin. It is Friday. How's everyone doing? Neil, Hardis, Neo, Chef Rowley, Rika. What seems to be the hold up? There's no hold up. How's the audio? Audio good. It is Friday, guys, and it is NFP. And we've got Carl James coming up at 9. We're just going to do our normal market breakdown. Moski, if you can just let me know, he's not even at his desk. I don't know why we employ people at this office. They're not even at their desks. But anyway, how's everyone? How's everyone doing this morning? Everyone doing well? MGI Cap, how's it, my brother? Guys, just one note, at the end of today's stream I'll be giving away that 1,000 Rand account. I'm going to give you more details. We will do the draw live and you will get your funded account before NFP. And one thing I do need to ask you is please don't participate in the draw if you don't have a Vault Markets account. If you don't have a Vault Markets account, please do me a favor, use the link in the description of this video, register one so that you can be eligible. If you're already a Vault Markets client, that is perfectly fine, but if you are not, you can't participate. I'm just letting you guys know. Okay, DXY. It is Friday, it is NFP. Here's the thing. There's two things that can happen on NFP day, and the markets can move beforehand if there's some information leaked. Or what they're going to do is they're gonna arrange the market up until NFP and then move it. Manmat. How's it going, man? And so that is the two scenarios. So we can move during the session. I'm just putting it out there, but we also have the very high probability of going into a range up until NFP. So with that being said, weekly bias on DXY was bullish. We pulled back almost 3 days. Yesterday, nice bullish engulfing candle. We found support at this prior area of support, so I am bullish on the day for DXY. Mo, audio good? Just give me a heads up. Mo's still not at his desk. I don't know what we're doing in this office. It is an absolute kid show. It's good. Okay. So with that being said, on a 5-minute time frame, we are trading above the daily pivot 103.46. Very likely before NFP you'll see DXY trading back at the pivot or very close to the pivot. But for now we are bullish on the session. We are above Asia highs. We've taken Asia highs. I want to actually see price come back, take Asia lows as well, and trade very close to the Asia lows and the daily pivot. But I am bullish on the day for DXY. We'll see if anything changes, but for now bullish. GU starting off the day, just looking at the daily candles. Let's quickly look at what we've got. So found resistance at the weekly R1. We're back at the weekly pivot. Some resistance being found here. Also yesterday's daily candle closed slightly below this area right here. I just want to zoom this in for you guys. If you look left, this was a previous area of resistance. This closed bearish with a body slightly underneath it. If that body was above, we could have expected some potential bullish continuation. Closed bearish, so I am bearish on the day. It is NFP, and we would need to see where we are later on in the day. Also remember, we are trading NFP live today, 2:15. Be sure to join. So currently breaking below Asia lows. I would say our area of contention a little bit later would be Asia lows for some movement down. Otherwise we can pull back all the way back to the daily pivot level. And again, as I've mentioned, usually with these big fundamental events, they try and bring price as close to the daily pivot as possible, or the weekly pivot. So two zones that are going to be critical for later this afternoon: our weekly pivot level and our daily pivot level up there. Currently price bearish, breaking structure lower, potential continuations down. If we retest Asia lows, fail there to come down, or we're going to come back inside the Asia range, pop the Asia highs and swing back into the Asia range to try and confuse traders, to try and manipulate traders. And that is the case with GU. Daily time frame on gold. Remember yesterday we mentioned this area right here. This could be a potential area of resistance. We have been pushing quite bullish on gold. I have to say we are bullish on the week. Daily time frame, I'm going to lean bearish for a potential pullback, maybe into this zone right here. I'll just show you guys, this was the weekly R1. Maybe a potential pullback into that zone. We'll see how we trade within 1942 and 1945. This was a previous area of contention for us, and currently again. Also, if you pull this a little bit left, you'll see, like we mentioned yesterday as well, a lot of reaction in this area. So don't get me wrong, we can push through this level today, but on the day I'm going to go with a bearish bias. And if I go down to my 5-minute time frame, let me just zoom this in for you guys. Currently at Asia lows, still some bearish pressure in the market, not gonna lie. We've got our daily pivot at 1943. Again, I'm expecting them to bring price closer back to the daily pivot, and they're gonna move price from here. So not expecting too much, but again, if some information has been leaked, you could see a move before NFP this afternoon. GJ, quickly gonna run through GJ on the daily time frame. Yen pairs have been an absolute shit show. Still in this bigger range. Still within this bigger range. Pushed up. Bearish candle, no top wick engulfing that. We've got a tiny range here, so what's going to make it very easy for next week is if we can break down today, close below 183.64, then it's going to be a much easier move down. But if we find support here again, we just go back into the range. So on the day, bearish for GJ, and currently still looking bullish on the AD. Asia lows, daily pivot is all the way up here with the weekly pivot. So let's see. I'm going to see what we do at Asia lows. Maybe we can get some type of buy on the Asia lows for price to push back into the weekly pivot level, or they're just going to drive price lower, but we will monitor that as the session goes on. USD JPY on the daily time frame, let me just run through that. Daily time frame, we found resistance. I was bearish yesterday. I actually thought they're gonna flush it. Sorry, we were bullish for the push up. Price just continued down. Closed below this area of support. Also, weirdly enough, the weekly pivot level. So we've got some nice range to move down all the way here to the daily pivot level 144.80. And on the lower time frames, let's see how we can attack this market this morning. Still currently looking quite bullish. on the 80, but I will need to see what we do at Asia highs and the weekly pivot level as well. So Asia range still intact, lows and highs have not been taken, so potentially something like this to then later on flush it down. So that is the potential idea for UJ. Nasdaq, let's quickly run through Nasdaq on the daily time frame. We are bullish on the week. Daily yesterday closing bullish. We cannot try and sell this market yet. We have there's no confirmed resistance. Even if I get one bearish daily candle, that is still not enough. I would want to see these highs being taken out. So let's say for instance today pushes up, takes yesterday's high, and then from there breaks back down, breaking yesterday's low as well and closing strong bearish, then I would consider sell starting off next week. But currently we are still bullish, and if I look at this area right here, that has already been retested yesterday. Can we test it again? Will Friday be the reversal on indices? I'm bullish on the day. Let's see where we are with the 5-minute time frame. MSS, I'm going to chat now about everything that's happening with MFF and the rest. So currently still bullish. We are trading below the daily pivot, and I can already tell you that closer to NFP price is going to be in this range somewhere here. So still bullish. I want to see where we are later on closer to NFP, but if we can do something like this a little bit later, coming back into the Asia range, and we can try and scope some longs from here, that would be the idea from the Asia lows and the daily pivot. Otherwise we will just flush down, or we will look for potential buys here at the S1 zone. Also yesterday's pivot level beautifully respected and price moved up from there. Dow Jones daily candle, as mentioned yesterday, we've got this previous area of resistance right here. Look left with me. This was a previous area of support, now potentially resistance. This for me is a very nice bearish reversal. Took the previous day's highs, engulfed the previous day's candle, and broke the previous day's candle's low. So bearish on the day, but also we need to realize that we have now broken the last swing low structure here. So all of this could just purely be a pullback to then continue back higher. Or if this was the pullback for this leg down, you can see something like this where we actually go and take out that swing low right there, and then the reversal will start. So on the day I am bearish due to the fact that we've got this potential swing high reversal there. And if I go down to the lower time frames, we are trading below the daily pivot. My accumulation distribution is clearly showing me bearish momentum in the market, and I ideally want to look for sells. It is weird that I'm looking for buys on Nasdaq and sells on US 30, but again we'll see how things develop later into the session. And this area right here, daily pivot level 34,855, that is the area where I will look for potential sells. If anything changes in terms of the accumulation distribution we see on the charts, then we can reassess where we are. So currently in the Asia range, I would love to see this first push higher and see what we do at that level. On the economic calendar, let's just run through what we've got today. Obviously NFP, the big one. I just want to see if we've got anything else that we need to consider. And then we're gonna get 9 o'clock, Carl James. He will be on, and we're gonna kick it off. So not expecting much, actually expecting average hourly earnings to drop. month on month, expecting it to remain the same year on year, expecting 170. And unemployment rate, expect that to remain the same. And then later on, the ISM manufacturing index. We've seen that some of the Eurozone PMIs have been bad. They're actually expecting an increase from the previous reading of 46.4. So a nice big deck of data to go through today. And ultimately, we will see. Also remember how the algos work in terms of news. I think I've mentioned this before. They've got certain bands. So if price literally, or let's say the reading comes out as expected, it's almost a non-event. They'll spike up, they'll spike down, we'll trade into like some type of range, and they will follow the majority of the weekly and monthly trend. If there's any downside, like a massive downside surprise, then you could obviously see the market repricing. And if there's any upside surprise, so let's put it this way, if there's a massive downside surprise on the non-farm payrolls, that is going to be negative dollar due to the fact that the Federal Reserve won't be pressured with further rate hikes. So the market is going to continue with that consensus of the market is the Fed is very close to starting at looking at cutting rates. So if I go to my Fed monitor tool on investing.com, let's just quickly see where the Fed futures are. Sorry, Fed futures. Let's just see where the market is currently at. So as mentioned at the start of the week, September 20th, market expecting no further rate hikes. But I did mention, so this has now flipped again. So therefore, if we've got any upside surprise, the market is now leaning, I would say it's still 50-50, but the market is now starting to lean back to the Fed not hiking. And I think that could be due to the fact that PMIs have worsened in the Eurozone. So you'll see here from the previous week where it was 42, 49. So all of this repricing going on. And then December as well, they're expecting it basically to remain the same. So the market could be in for a surprise if we get a massive jump on NFP. And that is it, guys. That is the analysis. We'll wait for the open. We've got Carl James coming up, and I'm going to answer some of the questions. And we will see where we are. Chris, what's your thoughts on the news that came out about MFF? Do you think other prop firms will face similar issues? We talked about it in the office. The thing with any prop firm or with any business that is in the financial industry, regulation is going to come for it. Unfortunately, Canada is quite strict. That's why a lot of forex brokers actually pull out of Canada. But dude, it happened. I don't know if it's real. Keegan mentioned like he's not sure if it's 100. Is it real, Keeks? Is it legit?
Yeah, so I went to my forex fund, and literally if you try to go into the website, it pops up with that email. So I can't even get into like my dashboard or anything like that. So it is legit.
Okay, so it is legit, guys. That is your biggest player in the game getting taken down. So they're trying to make an example of my forex funds. Morning, guys. Hope you've been productive session, been struggling with load shedding. Yeah, that's a story of our lives here at the office as well. But yeah, guys, I think I've mentioned it before. Regulation is going to come to the prop firm space, and the way that my forex funds position them is as a securities company. And somebody mentioned it, let me just get it on Twitter. If you go on their Twitter profile, they actually state 60,000 live funded traders. So that is quite a bold statement, live and funded. So what you're technically saying is you're giving funds to 60,000 traders to trade. So with that being said, you would. Yes, I see now all of these other fuckboys on Twitter now saying they don't know I was a funded millionaire once upon a time.
Yeah, but so MyForex Funds has stated that they are definitely taking it to court. So they are trying to fight it, but I think legally, I mean, if you've broken rules, I don't care how much you're going to fight it, you're going down. So personally, I don't think this is looking good for MyForex Funds.
I can tell you now already, they're going to move their business. I think they'll just basically clear out or say, look, we're not going to go ahead with business in Canada, and they're just going to move. Similar to brokers, guys. Why do you think you've got brokers sitting in Vanuatu, on Dominican Republic Islands, these Mauritian Islands, all of that? It's regulation. So they've got their regulated entity in Europe, and then for, let's call it their B-book business or their off-the-record business that's not that clean, they run licenses in all of these African countries and all of these islands that are very loosely regulated. So the same is going to happen with the prop firms.
So here's my thing. So whether they even get through this, or for example, whatever gets shut down and they eventually move location and stuff like that, the existing accounts would have all been frozen. So like we were talking about, it's already that bad reputation now, because you would have how many, not even people that were maybe not refunded, things like that, but you've got guys that have live accounts that have now lost their accounts. And cool, it's you've moved, they can go do a challenge with you again now, but it's the fact they have to redo a challenge. They did nothing wrong and they lost their live account. So do you honestly think, like, even if they do move and get to like open business again, people will actually go back to them?
The thing with MyForex Funds is they are currently the biggest. They're bigger than FTMO, they're bigger than the Funded Trader, and I haven't seen any real bad reviews on them. That was one of the things myself and Keegan talked about. I've only heard good things about them. So I do think if you've had a good experience with them and they can sort out their regulatory issues, then you are gonna go back to them. Because if you've had a bad experience and they get hit by the regulator, then obviously it's a situation of, no, they're already fucked up, I'm not going back. I don't understand why they're targeting prop firms. I mean, they're not the brokerage companies. That's why I have an account, say for example at ACAP. Alverno, it's basically to do with the movement of funds and how you position your business. So it is very technical, but in terms of you saying that you are a prop firm, and I think I mentioned this, your traditional prop firm, how it works is there's real liquidity. You bring, say, X amount of funds. Let's say I bring 1 million, and my prop firm is going to put next to my 1 million, say 9 million. And there's a split on that. Let's say I negotiated a 70-30 split with my prop firm, but it's actually a real 10 million rand account that you're trading. But with this being a case of, it is more like an educational thing, because you pay for evaluation. After you pass the evaluation, you technically get paid in a bonus. Geeks, correct me if I'm wrong. They don't actually say they pay you profits, they pay you a bonus on the profits.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's a bonus because they technically only use the information from the traders. So if I, for instance, have a prop firm company and I want to sell, like the Funded Trader, they sell the information and they actually disclose it. So if you go on the Funded Trader, I just want to show this to you guys. the funded trader actually states that they sell the information. Okay, now they want to sell me an account. Just want to show this to you guys. If you go to the FAQs, very clearly here they state the trading data is sent off to a partnered proprietary trading firm where trades are copied at their own discretion using aggregated orders using proprietary risk management techniques. So they're using the data of the traders that are trading. So even though you're trading technically a demo, there could be another firm copying everything that this trader X is doing and sending those orders to the real market. So that is the case with some of the firms, and that is how they offset the risk as well. So maybe you trade a 10 lot and they've seen you being consistent and they're throwing 100 lots into the market. So they've 10x your risk. So you're only making what you're making on that 10 lot and your split, but they're pushing 100 lots to the market. So the data is more important than the actual business model. Right, guys, Carl about to enter the building.
You know, I actually think it's going to be quite interesting. We can actually also ask Carl his opinion on this, because for those that don't know already, Carl is also a full-time funded trader. So I'll actually be interested to see his opinion on this whole MyForex Fund thing to happen today.
Just get Carl's video on, yeah. I think Carl is still joining.
What's up, gents?
Carl, how's it going, man?
Good, and you, bro? How's things?
Good.
Oh, the man is in the building.
How you keep? How's things, bro?
Always good, my brother.
That's good to know. Good to know.
Carl, sorry man, can I ask that you keep that mic close to your mouth? I just want the audio, we'll rather clip the audio down, but I just want it to be very clear. How's it going, man? Guys, Carl Potgieter, the one and only from Benoni, the 100 lot slinger, FTMO killer. Carl, no, he's not from Benoni. He's actually from Boksburg, but that is also a joke. Carl, where you from? But Keegan just mentioned you from Gauteng, but where are you based?
I'm based in Parkhurst in Sandton at the moment, but recently moved this side. So yeah, bro, it's been a cool experience to move over to this side. Been an enjoyable one, but yeah, pretty much mostly just in this room. So I can't really say I've experienced much more than my trading room, to be honest.
Were you originally from Gauteng?
Yes, I was. I was born in Kempton Park, and then I grew up in Boksburg with my rents. But I schooled in Durban. I went to boarding school in Denwood High School, and then started trading in grade 11. And then it's been literally five and a half years, going on to 6 years this year that I've actually been in the markets trading and whatnot. So it's been a journey, to say the least, bro.
Carl, you obviously know about the news of MyForex funds, and I think we're gonna kick it off there. I don't know if you've got accounts with MyForex funds. I know Keegan has got a live account with them.
I heard it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you have a live account with them?
I don't have a live account with them, no.
What's your thoughts on what's happening there? You think they'll be able to recover from this, or?
I don't know. I think like it's kind of something that I was expecting sooner or later, like in terms of like regulation, shit like that. And I know that Canada is a pretty hefty on the regulation, stuff like that. So I think if they were to get out of it, they'd probably have to like move the business, I guess. But I mean, the question is like, what happens with the live accounts that people have at the moment. You know what I mean? Especially if maybe it saves a couple of people that were in drawdown or something, bro. And it's like, here's a brand new account, you're back to break even. That'd be pretty sick. But yeah, I think it's something to. I wouldn't say it's something to necessarily worry about until it starts, filtering down into other prop firms and things like that. But it is definitely something that is a little bit wary. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
sorry,
mate, just add into, because literally just before Kyle joined, we were mentioning the whole thing about Canada and how strict their regulations are there, and that they possibly would move. But other than it moving, do you think that's a possibility still of this following through to the other big boys? For example, the funded trader, FTMO, that they could be at risk of this?
I don't know, but I don't think so, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know. I can't really tell you, but I think it's something that we obviously have to take into consideration and just be ready. But, for me personally, it's just like when you are trading, let's say like a $200,000 account, it's not like you actually have that whole $200,000, you know what I mean? You've actually only got that drawdown percentage of live capital in that sense. So, for example, for me, I joined the Funded Trader way before they had this unlimited time thing. So with the unlimited time, they changed the drawdown rules as well. So you had, instead of having a 12% overall drawdown, you have a 10% overall drawdown. So you actually only have 10% of that 200K account, obviously. So I think people tend to like overthink it a lot. Obviously, not everybody has like 300,000 rand to put into a broker. But for me personally, if this whole thing had to crash or whatever, I don't think it's gonna worry me too much, because I do have, a nice sized personal account that I trade as well. But it is obviously amazing to be trading other people's capital and making money from it, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think it's gonna filter into the bigger corporations as well. Or I mean, MFF was probably the biggest out there, second biggest next to FTMO. So it's pretty scary. But I think maybe this is just like a warning to every other firm out there as well, and like for them, or kind of gives them time for, if they do not have the regulations and the legal things in the process, or whatever you want to call it, then I think this probably is something for them to now look at and go and make the changes before the same thing happens to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just also add into one of the guys that asked a question. Yeah, as far as if I am correct, those aren't payout certificates on Kyle's wall. That's all these academy members that are literally live funded traders.
Yes, these are funded traders. I'm actually waiting for 4 more, bro, but these guys haven't sent them to me. I don't know why are they taking so long, but yeah, they're taking their time, bro. So I'm just waiting for people to send me their certificates, but they're all up on the wall. So it's pretty cool.
Carl, I think we're gonna go into what the guys really wanna hear is, and especially in your new book that's coming out now, How to Risk the Market. It's gonna be on eBay and Amazon. Carl wrote the book on how to risk the market. He didn't write the book, I'm kidding, but we're gonna chat about a little bit about how you trade. Keegan has mentioned to me, you don't trade a lot. You're very selective in your trades, and it's weird because I think it was the Funded Trader or somebody else gave out some stats, and weirdly enough, the guys that did the best held the trades the longest, and they also traded less than all the other guys. I think maybe it was like 3-4 trades a month, and their holding period was much longer. So there's a definite correlation between trading less but holding your trades for longer. So there is definitely stats that back that up. But just in terms of giving us a little bit of a background as to how you trade, where you started with your trading journey, just give the guys a little bit of a background on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, bro. I do have some unspoken riz with Mark, but yeah, no, it's been a journey, bro. I started with trying to teach myself, obviously, and going through the YouTube route and whatnot, and it obviously didn't end in didn't end in me making money at all. Um, I kind of felt like, why would I get a mentor? Why would I buy a course or something like that if I can just rather spend this money and actually trade with it? You know what I mean? So, yeah, long story short, I ended up losing way more money in the markets than what I would have spent on anybody's education or anything like that. Um, and I didn't understand what trading actually was. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people tend to focus too much on the technical analysis side of things and how to actually trade and whatnot. And that's pretty much what you get mostly on YouTube, is just how to actually trade and the basic lessons, etc., etc. But yeah, for about 2 years, I was just watching YouTube video after YouTube video and just trying to teach myself and trade the actual markets while learning and whatnot. And then I blew multiple accounts. Obviously, I quit a few times. I thought it's a scam, the usual that everybody goes through. And then I thought, you know what, if I'm going to give this thing one more go, let me just risk the money on an actual mentor or, a course or something, instead of me, trying to do the same thing over and over and over again and losing my money again. So I ended up getting a proper mentor. His name is Lambo Rahul, if you haven't checked him out yet, on Instagram or YouTube. He pretty much completely changed my perspective of trading, bro. And he just taught me how to treat trading like a business, the number side of trading, risk management, risk to reward, and how trading really works in general. And I always try and explain that to people, but I won't get into that just yet. I'll get into that a bit later because I'd probably speak for the whole Zoom call. But yeah, in terms of my personal trading, I've been profitable now for about 3 years. I Yeah, once I actually understood what trading was, the numbers behind everything, it was very, very simple to me. I really didn't take me much longer to actually find profitability in the markets. Um, so yeah, in terms of how I trade, bro, I trade simple price action. I don't really overcomplicate anything really. Um, just your usual supply and demand, and then backed by a couple of confidences of my own. I'm super, super patient, like you said there. I don't really take trades. I don't necessarily come into the market and want to take a trade every single day. Like if I have an analysis, the only time I'm actually taking trades is when that analysis plays out. You know what I mean? So whether it takes a week for that analysis to actually play out, or whether the market takes a week to actually get to my points of interest, it doesn't really bother me, because I'd rather put bigger risk behind a very high probability trade instead of risking your lower amounts on like lower probability, lower time frame trades. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's been something that has really completely changed my perspective, or I shouldn't say perspective, but my performance overall is just really being as patient as possible and waiting for some really good risk to reward ratio trades. Instead of me taking like 3 1-2s a week, I rather just wait for 1-6. You know what I mean? And I try to monitor and manage the trade as best as I can to get the full risk to reward out of every single trade.
In terms of pairs you trade, Carl, are there any specific pairs that you favor, or on your watch list you only have 2, 3? What are the pairs that you trade?
So I trade 4 pairs, pretty much mostly just 3, but I add in the 4th one every now and then when I like the fundamental side of things and whatnot. I'm a very fundamental driven trader as well as sentimental trader. And then technicals, obviously, for me, technicals is just where the most optimal time to get into the overall bias that I'm getting from fundamentals and the sentimental side of things. But in terms of pairs, I trade GBP, JPY, gold, Euro, JPY, and then occasionally GBP, USD.
And then in terms of your outlook for today, what are you expecting in the markets? Let's maybe start with DXY.
Yeah, let's look at the dollar index. I think, yeah, bro, I think NFP is probably like the most through my, like I said, I'm very fundamental driven. So through my like fundamental experience, NFP is probably the one event that is the least predictable in a sense, like whether it's going to come in higher than the forecast or lower than the forecast. But I think more in terms of the unemployment rate, I believe is a little bit more important than the actual non-farm payroll. So jobs data obviously didn't come in the best this week for the dollar, job openings and whatnot. I think jobless claims also came in lower than expected last week, if I'm not mistaken. So, but this has happened multiple times for me. Like multiple times I've seen, jobs data not coming in as best as possible. And then I'm expecting NFP to also come in lower than expected. And then this thing just prints out like 250,000 more jobs than what I was expected. And I'm like, bro, like, how did that happen? But yeah, I think it's obviously very important. More important for me is just, the aftermath, what the Fed's looking to do with the data that has been presented. I do probably see the Fed, sticking to like a higher for longer rate outlook. I think a lot of people tend to just focus on them hiking the rates, but it's not necessarily always them hiking the rates. It's all about like, there's two things for me personally when it comes to interest rates, and it's the speed at which they increase the rate and then the actual amount that they hike it by, obviously. So even though they might be pausing the next rate hike or the next decision in September, that isn't necessarily a bearish catalog for the dollar. It might be on the day or like for like 2 days, but the most important thing is the comments, obviously, that Jerome Powell's going to give and say, listen, we're looking to keep the rates at this rate now for the rest of the year or whatever. Whereas most people, the market's expecting them to cut rates by, the end of the year or whatever the case may be. So for me, it's just more important. I don't necessarily trade any news events on the event, obviously. I just rather stick to obviously the aftermath and what the markets are expecting. So yeah, bro, I think we're probably going to see, I think we might actually see a bullish dollar. I think the unemployment rate's going to come in lower than expected, and then NFP will probably come in lower than expected as well. So I think we'll probably see a bullish dollar and some bearish moves on gold. But yeah, if that were to happen, then I'm definitely going to be bullish on the dollar for most of September. If the dollar comes out negative today, and the Fed is looking a lot more dovish than hawkish, then I'm definitely going to be looking to go short on the dollar for the rest of September.
Yeah, I agree. I think guys tend to so for me, I've mentioned for the guys on stream as well, I was heavy into fundamentals, and I tried to paint this narrative for myself as to what the Fed should do and what the market should do with what the Fed is doing. And at some stage, I was like, okay, shit, you're going to have like this massive fundamental picture as well. But if you fail to use your eyes and actually see what the market is printing in terms of price action, sometimes fundamentals can lead you astray, because you could be expecting a stronger dollar because all fundamentals point to a stronger dollar, but you're seeing something different on the chart. And for me personally, that blocked me for a lot of years. And then personally for me, it was the case of, look, paint a picture, create some context as to where you are fundamentally. And like you've mentioned now with the Fed, it's not necessarily about just the next hike. It's now the case of how long are we going to stay at this neutral rate. Let's call it relatively neutral, because we're basically back where we were at 2008 before the global financial crisis. So I also am with the picture of that if we get any massive upside surprise on NFP today, and if you go back on all of the minutes, all of the comments, like inflation is coming down. We've already basically chopped inflation in half. But the big thing is the labor market is still running hot, and average hourly earnings as well. Because if guys are earning more, your labor market is running hot, then obviously again that's a catalyst to reignite inflation. So they want to bring the labor market also to a rate of neutral, and that's where they mention the soft landing. Is like they don't want to completely crash the economy, but the Fed is trying to slow down the US economy, and that's just a fact. So in terms of do we get a soft landing, some guys say we are on the path to get a soft landing. If you think about it, NASDAQ on the weekly time frame I think has done something like 52% from the yearly lows, or from the COVID lows. So we are technically in a bull market. If you take, this was December last year, we've done almost 49%. 25% is a technical bull market. So NASDAQ is technically in a new bull market. I know a lot of guys are still expecting one more crash, or the potential to even take out last year's low. I don't know, but fundamentally we are in a very weird time. DXY also last year I would say was relatively easy with the Fed just hiking rates, and then obviously once we peaked, this was October last year, and then the dollar has been in this weird corrective, almost like zigzag move down, still bearish though, but with very deep pullbacks, so creating new lows and then pulling very deeply into that area. So again, very deep pullback, even with the potential, like Carl also mentioned, to actually start breaking structure now to the upside and actually break out of this downward structure that we've got. Carl, in terms of getting your first funded account, let's talk about that. I hear the guys say that getting the first one is the hardest. Is it the case? Was getting the first payout the hardest? And did something click after that first payout you got?
It was a mission, I'm not gonna lie, bro. And I'm sure you know, obviously, with most platforms, if you end the challenge in profit, you get a free retry. So you don't necessarily always have to hit that target. Obviously, you have to hit the target to pass the challenge. But if you do end the challenge in profit, you're able to get a free retry. So I had 5 free retries in a row before I actually passed the challenge. And funny story, bro, my first challenge, I ended the first phase on like 9.2%. So I was like 0.8% away from passing. And I was like, nah, bro, can't be, no way. I have to find something to just get this last 0.8%. And then I ended up trading in Asian session, and the market was moving slow as hell, and like it just didn't work out. But yeah, bro, five free retries to eventually pass. And I think I don't know. I speak under correction because I think everybody's journey is different, obviously. But for me, there wasn't really necessarily a mental shift at all once I actually passed the account, because I have traded, like kind of that size capital, personal capital in the past. First of all, but second of all, like because I've been doing the free retry time after time after time, I don't think I was almost already used to managing that size capital, you know what I mean, and like trying to hit this target the whole time. I think if anything, when I passed, it was almost like a weight off of my shoulders, and I was like, okay, cool, now I finally don't have to hit a certain target every single time or every single month, you know what I mean? I don't have to have this target in the back of my mind. So yeah, bro, it's been crazy. It's been a journey, but I think, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't necessarily understand what trading is, bro. Like, I might get into a little bit of an in-depth topic with this one, but it's definitely I think it's gonna help a lot of people, for those who are watching. But for me personally, like I said, I was always focused on, fundamentals, technicals, everything to do with actually trading and knowing where the market's going to go, etc., etc. And I never really saw trading from a business perspective, if that makes sense. So I never used to really focus on, the number side of things, and not just risk management in itself. I think a lot of people have a very surface level outlook when it comes to risk management. But I think obviously risk management keeps your account alive, and then risk to reward is what's actually overall going to keep you profitable and actually make you the money. You know what I mean? So for me, once I actually understood, that I can lose 3-4 trades in a row and one trade can bring me back all my losses, it was like, what is there actually to care about now? Like, I can just trade my plan. I can actually go back test the strategy over a long period of time and journal every single trade, find my average risk to reward of the strategy, find my win rate, add the two together and see if the strategy is actually profitable. And once I actually had the statistical proof, that the strategy is indeed profitable, there was nothing left for me to actually care about. You know what I mean? I just traded the plan, and I've been trading the plan now for about 3 years. And funny enough, this year I haven't had a single red month at all, which is a blessing, obviously. But yeah, bro, it's been a journey. And once you actually understand, in terms of risking a certain percentage to make a certain percentage, the amount in the account doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's all just about, the RR of each trade and how much I'm losing compared to how much I'm making at the end of the day.
Carl, would you classify yourself as a day trader or a swing trader?
Definitely a day trader, bro.
Okay. So you don't hold positions overnight?
No, I seldomly even hold over like 3-4 hours, I would say, is pretty much the longest that I hold a trade. Obviously, depending on, I'm a guy who doesn't always necessarily take profits either. So I like to tell my stop loss, depending on the risk to reward of the trade. If I'm in a high RR, if I've already made like 3 times my risk, I just trail my stop loss very tightly, because there is always upside potential or downside potential in certain trades. You know what I mean? So I've had a month where I was risking 1% of my account, and I made 27% in a single month by risking 1. So it was 27R a month just by trading my stop loss every single trade and not necessarily having a specific target. Obviously, having levels within the trade that I'm looking at that is highly likely for price to react to these levels. But in the overall movement of the trade that I'm looking at, I just tend to read every single candlestick and read the momentum at which the probability is higher to move in a certain direction. You know what I mean?
And sorry, Kicks.
No, I just wanted to mention there. So I know Carl is a big advocate of risk management. So I just actually saw something today where guys were talking about this. And for those that don't know, in the funded industry, majority, if not all funded accounts and challenges, you get a max drawdown or daily drawdown of 5%. So I wanted to know Carl's opinion, like when we talk about RR and risk management, like I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard myself and Chris, we always say we've got 2 bullets for the day. So for yourself, Carl, like where do you draw the line where you decide, okay, that's enough, like I'm walking away, or how you work out on a basis of how much you're going to risk per trade? Because we know a lot of guys that have the problem where the emotions get the better of them, or they revenge trade and so on, and that's where they really get themselves like in trouble.
100%, that's a very good question. So in terms of me deciding how much I want to risk per trade, is I divide the overall amount that I have by a certain amount. So obviously all of us go into losing streaks here and there, and it's very important to obviously protect yourself and protect your capital within those times. So what I do is I divide the account into 20. So that gives me 20 trades to lose in a row for me to eventually lose the account. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very, very small chance that I'm going to lose 20 trades in a row. You know what I mean? So I think it is possible to lose 10 in a row if, so anything can happen and you have a horrible streak where you lose 10 trades in a row. It hasn't happened to me personally, but I do know that I've been in the 6 trades in a row that I've lost 7 trades at times. So you always just want to let the probability play out, or let the edge that you have when it comes to risk to reward. For me personally, the only edge that you can have over the market is risk to reward ratio. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter which strategy you trade. If you're not making 2 or 3 at least times the amount that you're risking, you're not going to be profitable at the end of the day. You know what I mean? There's very few, pretty much for me personally, there's no strategy out there that's going to give you a win rate of above, on a good streak, you'll have like a 60% win rate. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like all about how much am I making compared to how much am I risking. And the funny thing is, most people don't even know how to calculate their position size, bro. You know what I mean? Most people just get into the market at a random lot size. That's the one question I always get, is like, what lot size do you trade? And I'm like, what do you mean, what lot size do I trade, bro? Like, it differs every single trade. It's a different lot size, because the stop loss is a different size for every single trade, and it's a different pair. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you think further than what lot size do I trade? You know what I mean? So for me, it's just about risking that certain amount every single trade and making at least 2 times the amount that I'm risking per trade. And then in terms of like daily drawdown, like, Keegs, I seldomly even take more than 1 trade a day. You know what I mean? So I would rather have a very high probability setup where instead of risking 1%, I'd risk like 1.5% on that 1 trade, instead of me seeing 2 different trades and then risking 1% on the one and then 1% on the other. But I think the most I would be happy to lose on a day is maybe 2%. But even that is like it's gonna irritate me bad, bro, if I had to lose 2% in a single day. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just probably, I really just focused on like max 2 trades a week. You know what I mean? So
guys in the chat, we're going to open up the floor for some questions for Carl. We've already spoken about my Forex fund thing, so please don't ask us again what is our thoughts on that. Go back on the stream, we spoke about it in depth. The funded space is not going anywhere. There will be regulation. It will be a good thing for the industry. It will clean up the industry. So it's not that funded companies are going away. If you thought that is the case, the industry is growing. There is the need for regulation, because I have seen some bad players in the industry as well. So I'm going to open up the floor for some questions. Feel free to ask your questions now. Carl is a full-time trader. He is profitable. He's got the results. We don't have scammers on here, and if we are going to get some scammers on, it will be purely to pull them apart and expose them, but Carl's not one of them. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. We are going to do the giveaway before Carl jumps off the 1,000 Rand funded account to trade NFP later with us. And yeah, what's your strategy, Bron? That is a very widely based question. What's your strategy? If you can be a little bit more specific, that's asking, do you drive a car? It is. Let's get more specific, please, guys. Don't rush your question. Carl's gonna be here a while, so don't stress. Alberto, Carl, how did you shift your mindset on funded account size? Like, did you start small, then adjust it according to your goals, or how did you go about it?
Bro, when it came to like shifting my mindset with the funded account, like I mentioned earlier, it's like very different for me personally, just because I have traded in and around that amount of personal capital before, not $200,000, but in and around $20,000, which is actually what you've got when you think about the drawdown. So for me, it was like not necessarily a massive jump psychologically. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to actually understanding and having a percentage outlook, and having an outlook of, risk to reward ratio, how much am I risking of the account and towards how much am I making? I think for like not even beginner traders, but even those who are pretty much new to the space, or maybe if you've been trading for like a year or two, it can definitely be something that's daunting. It can definitely be something that you like sit back and you're like, damn, I just want to close this trade now because I've got $1,000 of profit. Because obviously it's a big amount for a lot of people. But if you are risking $2,000 per setup and you're closing at $1,000 of profit, you're actually just shooting yourself in the foot. You know what I mean? So in terms of having like a mental shift, I try to pride myself in having discipline in every other asset of my life. I follow like a stricter diet. I have a nice, strong, strict training plan, things like that help me to actually have discipline in the markets and help my psychology as well. But I don't think there's any time that anything can necessarily help you and prepare you for a mental shift, or for having the right psychology when it comes to trading funded accounts, or even just trading in general. I think it's just going through it yourself. Everybody has like a different journey when it comes to their trading experience. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
MJR Capital, after getting a mentor, how long did it take you to start seeing profits?
For me, it was a little bit different once again, because I had known everything there is possibly to know about like how to actually trade, and reading price action and stuff like that. So I didn't necessarily have to be taught much when it comes to actually trading. But when I actually made the mindset shift, like I mentioned earlier, knowing how to manage my risk and having a business outlook when it comes to trading, making, the right decisions. Sometimes even not trading is a better decision. It's a business decision if you look at it that way. And managing your capital, preserving your capital, it's a lot deeper than what most people think. But once I actually understood that, I was pretty much just went back to the markets and back tested about 6 months. I literally just back tested every single day, 1 hour on, 1 hour off, back testing my strategy that I was trading even before the mentorship. Because once I got exposed to what like the risk to reward side of things, I was like, damn, I don't need much more than what I have right now. I know that the strategy, is pretty solid. So let me go and actually back test it and put in the hours and get the stats behind the strategy. So I went into some really in-depth topics like, how much is my average risk to reward? What's my win rate over at least 100 trades? What is when I am in a losing streak, how much trades does it usually take me to get out of the losing streak? People don't necessarily go into that much depth when it comes to backtesting their strategy, but I backtested for about 6 months, and I was proven, that the strategy was profitable, and statistically so. Journaled every single trade and found that I would have made quite a bit of money. And then, I just went into the live markets and I was pretty much profitable from there on out. So maybe doesn't have to be 6 months, doesn't have to be very long at all, to be honest. It's actually, trading to me is very, very simple. And when you actually have the right knowledge and the right mentor, if I can put it that way, if you have the right people that are providing you with the right knowledge, not guys showing you a 50 Rand deposit that they took to 5 million within one trade, then you can actually make a solid amount of money on a consistent basis when it comes to trading.
Brian, thank you for rephrasing your question. I appreciate that. It's a much better question. Carl, do you use SMC or price action, and what has worked for you with the highest success rate? Carl did mention he uses not necessarily order blocks, but supply and demand, and he uses pure price action. So I don't think when you say supply and demand, it's not necessarily order blocks. Am I correct? It's more a case of areas where selling has occurred from or where buying has occurred from, when you say supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, pretty much, areas of areas of liquidity where prices has obviously, or you can clearly see with your eyes that the market, people have been participating more at certain areas. The price has reacted to that area, not just multiple times, but the volume that price moves from these areas is obviously different every time. So I like to focus on some really strong, very obvious levels that price has reacted to in the past, with some high volume, some high volatility. Mostly just using simple breakup structure, break and retest. I do not trade smart money concepts. I just literally trade simple price action. And yeah, it's been working for me for literally 3 years right now. And like I said earlier, I keep on saying the same thing, but in terms of what strategy you trade, I think people can literally be profitable using just trend lines. Even though I hate trend lines. I'm a very, very big like advocate of not using trend lines, but I think you can even be profitable just off of trend lines if you have your risk to reward, sorted, and you have positive risk to reward, and you've back tested your strategy. I think everybody uses different confirmations for entry, different confluences in their strategy that needs to be met, like a rules-based strategy. This one, I have like a if and when approach to the market. So if this happens, then I'll move on to my second confluence. If the second confluence is met, then I'll move on to my confirmation. If my confirmation is met, then I take the trade without any hesitation or psychological aspect of it. I just take the trade when my strategy presents the trade. I don't hesitate whatsoever. I just take the trade, and the outcome is completely out of my hands. All I know is the strategy over a long period of time, the strategy has proven to be profitable. So I don't necessarily need to care about, the singular result of each and every trade. It's just about a long-term outlook. And, some months are absolutely amazing. You go on winning streaks and make 3 times your risk every single trade, and you're sitting with 20% of your account or whatever the case may be. And then there's some months that you're in a little bit of a drawdown, you're down 5%, down 6%, down 7%. But yeah, for me, when you actually understand trading, like I said earlier, like you never actually lose money. You know what I mean? You lose trades here and there, but if you have positive risk to reward, you never actually lose money. You just consistently compounding the account, letting it grow over a long period of time. And yeah, that's pretty much my outlook.
Jason Larkin, does Carl have specific times of day for trading? Do you have like a specific, let's say for instance, the guys on the stream know I don't trade before the open. Again, like you mentioned, I went through my stats. I saw the majority of my losses were before London Open. I also saw that a lot of my losses occurred during that open period and the first 15 minutes of the market. So that's why I always tell the Oaks, like, take any probability of failure, take it out of the equation, and therefore I only trade 15 minutes after the open, then I start looking for my setup. So do you have the same criteria of, let's say you get to your desk 7 o'clock till 11, that is your window of opportunity if you don't get your trade there? Or is it a case of you sit the entire day in front of the charts, or do you use alerts, or what do you use?
Yeah, bro, that's a very, very good point that you mentioned in terms of like, trying to mitigate as much error as possible. So for me, I don't trade at all on Mondays. So I've been proven, obviously statistically, like you mentioned as well, through my back testing, that like 80% of the time that I take a trade on a Monday, it's a loss. So I completely took Mondays out. So I don't trade on Mondays, which is quite cool because I've got like a long weekend every weekend. So from about, I also don't trade Friday, London, New York session on Fridays either. So I've got like a half a Friday and then Saturday, Sunday and Monday that I basically just have time for myself, or not really time for myself because obviously I'm running other businesses and a mentorship and whatnot. So I'm pretty much grafting all weekend long as well, but it's not like actual chart time. But in terms of also London Open, I don't necessarily trade the first 15 minutes either. There has been times where I have been in a good position where I do trade the first 15 or so minutes, but I definitely tend to wait it out a little bit for that initial volume to come through, and then for the market to just find its feet. But I mostly trade London session only. I tend to not trade New York too much just because of how much news events there is in and around from like 2:30 to 4-ish. Sometimes even till about 6 o'clock. Obviously, when it's Fed meetings, it's till 8 o'clock in the evening, etc., etc. So I don't take any positions later than 6 in the evening. So sometimes I take a trade during like London, New York crossover, but very seldomly. I mostly just trade London session from about 9 o'clock in the morning till maybe 3 or so in the afternoon. That's pretty much my most profitable time based on my stats and my back testing and shit.
Another question here for Carl. Your edge, what would you say is your trading edge? How would you define edge? And when it comes to trading, what gives you your edge in the market?
Okay, so like I said earlier, I think the only edge that us as retail traders have is in terms of the numbers side of things. So to give the viewers a quick example, I always use this analogy to explain what I mean by a real edge over the market, because a lot of people tend to think that it's their strategy that gives them an edge over the market, but there's a total amount of $7 trillion per day being moved in the market. So for your strategy to have an edge over the market is very unlikely. So it has to come from somewhere else, you know what I mean? So let's say we were all on this, let's say Keegs and I were sitting here playing a game of heads and tails, and we're flipping a coin, obviously, and the rules of the game is every time it lands on what we were expecting it to land or what we were predicted it to land, we make double the amount that we risk per coin flip. And I tell you, okay, we can flip the coin as many times as we want to, but obviously it's all dependent on the amount of money that you have to play the game. So let's say we have 100 Rand to play this game of coin flips. We got unlimited flips, and every time it lands on what we expect it to land, we make double the amount that we're risking per coin flip, right? Now, most people will say, okay, because it's a 50-50 chance, I pretty much need to be lucky for it to land on what I'm expecting it to land. So why don't I just put this whole 100 Rand on the first coin flip? And then people put the whole 100 Rand on the first coin flip, they flip, it lands on what they expected it to. And fortunately enough, that happens for them in the first 4 coin flips in a row. And they end up taking that 100 Rand to 1,000 Rand or whatever. And now it looks all flashy and cool for Instagram and for their friends and things like that. And now the 5th coin flip comes and they're like, you know what, if I flip this, if I've got 1,000 Rand now and I put it down and this coin lands on what I expected it to, I make double the amount that I'm risking. So that's 2,000 Rand of profit. That means my initial investment was 100 Rand and I've now taken it to 3,000. That would look insane. I can go tell all my friends, wada. They flip the coin, boom, they blow the whole amount of money, right? So instead of that, they're going to go back and say, you know what, it's a 50-50 chance. There was no way of me making money in any way, wada. Instead of doing that, you can actually sit back and ask yourself mathematically, how could I have an edge over this game to consistently make money? And if you were to sit back and you have your 100 Rand now, and I tell you that you have unlimited flips, if you sit back and divide the 100 Rand by 10, and you say, okay, cool, I've got 10 coin flips whereby I'm risking 10 Rand per coin flip to make 20 Rand, right? Because I make double the amount that I'm risking. So that means that even out of the 10 coin flips that I have now, if I had to lose 6 of the coin flips, I lose 10 Rand per coin flip. That means I'm losing 60 Rand. If I only win 4 out of the 10, I make 20 Rand per coin flip, meaning 20 times 4 is 80 Rand. So at the end of the 10 coin flips, I'm sitting with 20 Rand of profit. Now that might not be as flashy as the first example, but it is a way to continue playing the game over and over and over again. And now you have an edge over the game, because an edge to me is, even though the odds are not in my favor, I'm still going to make money. Do you understand? I've still got an edge over this game. So even though I lost 60% of the coin flips, even though I lost 6 out of the 10 coin flips and I only won 4, I still ended up making 20% of the initial amount that I put into the actual game. And it's exactly the same for me when it comes to trading. So yes, your strategy can be a better outlook than a 50-50 when trading is compared to the coin flip. But at the end of the day, every single trade has a different outcome. So we don't know if we enter the trade, it's never guaranteed that it's going to go in a certain direction. There's obviously probabilities to weigh out and say, okay, you know, the probability is higher for price to reach this level if it resists off of this level, or whatever the case may be. But the actual edge that you're going to have is how much you're risking compared to how much you're losing at the end of the day. So for me, the only edge that we could possibly have, whether you trade smart money concepts, you know, price action, supply and demand, sports resistance, trend lines, only edge that you can actually have over the market is, you know, treating trading like a business, and you know, in terms of how much you're making compared to how much you're risking for each and every trade.
Sipo Mundise, we're not going to do that question. I'm kidding. We are going to do it. We've actually spoken about this on the stream as well. He was asking about, did you set out daily, weekly, monthly targets, or did you purely focus on your setup? So let's say, for instance, your setup presented itself, you take it, but you don't necessarily have like a weekly target where, let's say, for instance, you've got a weekly target of 3R, and once you hit, let's say Tuesday, you hit your 3R, you close the books for the week, or would you still continue trading?
So I don't necessarily set any targets personally. I think that's something that a lot of people tend to also do wrong when it comes to trading, because trading is not like any other business or any other job where you actually have control over the outcome. You know what I mean? So you don't know whether the market's actually going to present your setup that week or even that month. You know what I mean? So I don't tend to set specific targets. I just pretty much go with the flow. So when the market presents my setups, I take them. But for example, if let's say I am 3R up for that week and it's only on Tuesday, then I will go and say, okay, cool, I'm happy with ending the week on 2R. So if there's another setup that comes through this week, I'm going to be risking 1R on this trade, or you know, a percentage of my profits. And then I try and maximize my profits as much as possible, because there's weeks where there's 3 high probable trades in that 1 week, and each and every one of them give me 3 times my risk, where I end up, you know, instead of me saying my target is 3R this week, and on Tuesday I hit a trade that gives me 3R, and I say, okay, cool, that's me for the week. I can rather say, okay, cool, I've made 3 times my risk. I'm now going to go and say, okay, I'm going to risk 1% of this amount that I've made now, whatever the case may be. For the next trade, maybe that one gives me another 3R, and now I'm up 6R, and I say, okay, cool, you know what, I'm happy with 4R for the week, so now I'm going to go risk 2R on the next setup, and maybe that one is again a 1 to 3, and that gives me 6 times my risk, and now I'm sitting at 12R for the week. You know what I mean? So I try and maximize my profits as much as possible, while, you know, protecting my capital and preserving my capital as much as possible at the same time.
Guys, before we proceed, I think it's a good time now to do that 1,000 Rand account giveaway. Keeks, just let Mo know to just watch the chat there. Guys, so number from, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you guys to give me a number between 1 and 50. I've already printed out the number that's sitting here next to me, and if there's 2 guys that got the number correct, we're going to take the first one, obviously, but that is how we're going to do it. And I think we're going to do 1 or 2 more questions after that. Carl was kind enough to join us. He's not being paid to be here. He's done it out of the love for the trading community, and I really appreciate it, Carl. We're gonna do some just some last minute wrap-ups after this, but I do want to thank Carl, thank him for being here, spending his time here with us this morning. I'm also going to reach out to Carl a little bit more onto what he's doing. It's always good to connect with fellow traders and fellow like-minded guys. I also know Carl played rugby as well. Most of us in here played some type of professional rugby, and we actually spoke about it the other day. It's quite weird how the rugby boys end up in trading. So any number between 1 and 50, and once I see the correct number that I've printed out here, we can give that account away. And I'm gonna already tell you guys, not one of those numbers have been hit. I would say go a little bit lower. You guys are aiming way too high. Hit it a little bit lower. Let's see. Some of your oaks are getting very close, very, very close now. Still not. Let's pop it in the chat as soon as we get that number.
It's quite funny. I have like a funny feeling I know what number it is.
Alverno Kutsia, well done, my brother. The account is going to Alverno. There it is, 7. Alverno, just pop me your Instagram handle in the chat. Alverno Kutsia, you're getting the account, my brother. So if you can just pop me your IG handle, and I can connect to you to get your account. So Mo, just get Alverno's details in the chat, his IG handle. Alverno, do you have Instagram, my brother, or how can we reach you? Send some smoke signals, we'll do so. Just drop it here in the chat. Mo, are you ready to grab that handle? Alverno could say you checked him, eh? Okay, sweet. And we're gonna do one more question, one of the questions, stop loss break even for the NAS by Neil. Thank you for sharing that. Neil's also one of the handful of guys that I've worked with closely, helping them. I think one more question for Carl. Somebody mentioned trading books. Was there any trading books that you have read, and which one specifically would you say provided you with the most wisdom?
Here's one actually. There it is, bro.
Trading in the Zone.
Yeah, this book changed the game for me, bro. Just psychology wise, he just goes down to very, very in-depth topics, but I think it's definitely worth the read. It's quite a pricey one, but yeah, it's definitely one of the best things that I've done in my career was to actually just read this book. I read it quite late in my career, so the things that I read was already pretty much known for me, but it just made me realize those things again. So I think for anybody that's like, even if you've been trading for a long time and you haven't read this book, I think it's mandatory to read Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. Very, very good book, bro.
Guys, just to add to that, I can actually back that up. Obviously, being lucky enough to get to chat quite often with Carl and learn through him, he's also put me onto that exact book, and I can tell you it definitely is an eye-opener.
Bro, it's definitely a solid book.
I think something else on just a little bit maybe off the topic, any words of motivation or encouragement, because I think a lot of traders are struggling. I think a lot of guys almost feel like they're at that stage where they want to give up. I think we've all been there. You've actually mentioned it. You've given up a few times as well. I've given a little bit of my story where I literally lost everything in trading, trying to weird story. We'll get back to Carl now, but weird story. Before FTMO really took off, and before the prop firm space about 6-7 years ago, I tried to do like a real prop firm thing remotely, and I got absolutely wrecked, like literally financially ruined. Basically reaching out to guys that had mentorships, went into a consultancy agreement, gave them funds to trade. But nonetheless, I think we've all gone through challenges, not even with trading, just in general life, things being stacked against you. You want to give up. And I think a lot of what we try and do as traders and just as human beings is to provide that positive light, to be like, dude, I've been there, I've been through the dumps, I've hit that level of depression where you almost want to take your own life. Like, we are here to be that beacon of light. We are here to try and provide some information, to provide some light in terms of some people going through through dark things. So if there's any, I think that's the one thing that guys tend to fail to realize in trading is that mindset as well. And just like Carl also mentioned, he's on a strict diet. He trains, he keeps his body fit, he keeps his mind fit, because obviously all of that transposes into his trading. And if Carl, if you can maybe give some words of motivation or just some encouragement for the guys that are on, I feel now's a good time to really encourage some of the oaks that might be on that verge of giving up or saying like, flip, my situation is too bad to really get out of it.
No, 100%, bro. I think probably 90% of people are in that position at the moment, especially with recent market conditions. I think if you got into trading this year, it's not necessarily the best year to get into it, but yeah, you know, it's a very difficult journey because the candlesticks themselves can start irritating you. You know what I mean? When you get into that psychological battle, you just look at the market and you're like, you know what, I'm over this shit, I'm done, I don't want to do this ever in my life again. You know what I mean? But then next morning you wake up and you're like, you know what, bro, what else is there to laugh? You know, so yeah, in terms of motivation, man, we've all been there, we've all gone through that blip, and I really think that those times, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, and I always used to get this type of answer, like, you know, every profitable trader that I used to watch on YouTube and stuff used to say something similar, and it used to sound so stupid to me when I was in that position. But it's like, these times where you want to give up and these times that are very difficult and you're in drawdown, etc., really do mold you into that person that you need to be to actually be a successful trader at the end of the day. You know, so if anything, I would say just change your mindsets in and around you know, what it means to you to be in this current position. So like, instead of you wanting to give up, instead of you seeing it as a bad thing that things aren't necessarily going the best, try to really just see things as a process. You know, when you go to the gym, you know, like you mentioned earlier, Chris, like not just in trading but in life, when you do anything in your life, when you take anything on, it's never ever easy. You know what I mean? It's never ever just comes to you. Like, if you had to go to the gym and you've never lifted a weight in your life, you're not going to go in the first month and hit 150 kg bench press. You know what I mean? And that's where help comes in, where you know, you might not with a personal trainer, you might not push that 150 on the first day either, but it's going to take you a lot shorter to actually get to your goals at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So instead of trying to face everything by yourself, it's something of value, something that I don't think has any price tag on it, is really having a proper mentor and somebody who's actually doing it and has proof of them doing it and has proof of the results. Get somebody who can actually not just help you in terms of the technical analysis and how to actually trade, but somebody who you can phone in these times where you're struggling and you want to give up and you want to be like, bro, listen, dude, I don't know what to do. Can we hop on a Zoom call or whatever the case may be? Because I needed that personally. And when I got that, that's when it changed for me. When I actually had somebody, like, I wasn't necessarily just venting to my girlfriend or my mom about how I hate trading, because they always used to tell me, why don't you just give up? You know what I'm trying to say? Why don't you just stop? Because it's not making you happy and wada. But when you actually have somebody who is on the same page as you and is as driven as you and really wants to make it work as much as you want to make it work, or has made it work, then it's a whole different source of information. It's a whole different, you know, outlook. So try and not just do everything by yourself, and see the process as a positive, not as a negative. You know, try and focus on the fact that you are being molded into that person that you need to be for you to actually reach those goals, because it's a spiritual thing and it's a psychological thing that we all need to go through to get to that point where we can, you know, make those profits that you see people make on YouTube and Instagram and stuff. It's not very easy to make, you know, $200,000 in a single day. And I do believe that there are even though there's a lot of people that are faking that, I do believe that there are people out there that are doing that, you know what I mean? And can you imagine what psychological things they have had to go through to actually be able to hold the trade until $200,000 of profit? I mean, if I to see $50,000 at this point in time, I would retire. You know what I'm saying? So there's people seeing $150,000 and then it's back down to 50,000, and then it's back up to 100K. Then they continue monitoring the trade without any emotion up until $200,000, and then they say, okay, cool, you know, this is the most I've ever made, let me close the position. So yeah, I think there's levels to this game, and the psychological battle never ever ends. There's always something on the other side of the wall, if you put it that way. There's always another challenge. After you've got the funded account, it's actually keeping the account. After keeping the account, it's actually making a decent payout from the account. You know, after making a decent payout, you want to make a life-changing payout, and every single thing comes with its ups and downs and with its difficulties. So it's never going to end. And I think a lot of people tend to try and like skip that phase of trading or life in general. People try and, you know, I don't know what the word is, but people try and you know,
they try and fast track it. They think they can skip that phase.
Exactly, pretty much. People try and like I had the word literally yesterday. I spoke to a member of mine on the phone, and he phoned me, you know, talking about how bad he feels because he took a 1% loss on his funded accounts, and it's his first funded account ever, and you know, he's been trading personal account, but with so much on the line, like he feels like shit and wada. And then I said to him, bro, what did you think was going to happen? How did you think you were going to feel when you take a loss on your funded account? Or how did you think you were going to feel when you take your first loss on a funded account, or whatever the case may be? Of course, it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be good. You know what I'm trying to say? And I think a lot of people tend to fight that feeling, you know, where you're supposed to not feel good. I mean, imagine losing $2,000 and being like, yes, I lost $2,000. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it doesn't work like that. You're supposed to feel that way. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I don't know.
A lot of people.
I don't know if it was the same for you, but I feel like I had to hit a certain low point in this game, and not just trading, in general in business, because you get to a stage, and I've spoken to other guys as well, you get to a stage where everything you touch just turns into success. You've got money, any venture you go into, it makes money, and you almost have this sense mentally that you are too big to fail. And I've said it many times years ago, I always wondered like how big businessmen, you hear like they lost everything, and I'm thinking like, how the hell you like here, and then all of a sudden next thing you hear the guy's down here. And when I went through it, I was like, holy shit. So that's how quickly it can happen, going from year to year. And unfortunately, it is almost this thing of, and just in general in life, if you can't go through a certain thing, or you haven't gone through it, how are you going to basically mentor somebody else on it? Or how can you give a testimony of saying, I've been through dark times, but you come from a wealthy family, you were born into money, you've got a backstop, and now you want to tell somebody that's basically starting from scratch, that's basically hustling his way out of the gutters. You don't have that knowledge to tell them what they've been going through. But if you have gone through it, and you have gone through certain things, you can then have a testimony. You can talk on the topic and give advice. And unfortunately, there's a lot of guys shit talking and smack talking about this and that, and they've gone through this where they haven't gone through shit. But that's the thing. If a trader has gone through a certain level of struggle, you can listen to the guy, because he's not talking from what he read in a book or what he saw on a video, this or that. It's shit that he has gone through that has forged him into the trader, into the human being that he is now. Therefore, it's always a case of just keep your eyes open, look for the guys that are transparent in the industry, look for somebody that is not there to swindle you or market you, but actually provides the value first, and then say, look, it is a business. Trading remains a business. Carl's got a mentorship. It is still his time. He is still conveying the information that he has learned, but it's not a case of trying to swindle you into buying it. He's giving the value. There is a track record.
Yeah, and I think people are getting over, you know, the usual Forex guru out there now, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's very easy to really like see who is really doing it and who isn't, you know what I mean? I think people were very gullible back then, but now people are, you know, slowly but surely opening their eyes, and to a certain extent people have opened their eyes too much, because the question I get asked the most is, you know, are you a scammer? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think people are over the whole, you know, the usual Forex mentor that's, you know, it's so obvious for me, bro. I don't know for you guys, but like if you guys see a guy that, you know, posting 100,000 Rand of profit with a 500 Rand deposit, it's like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I can't take it.
We actually spoke about it yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it, Carl, but the new flex is like bodyguards. I see that's now the new flex. You post photos, but the bodyguards, like, they actually, I don't know if they're like stunt doubles for like a photo shoot, but I see the bodyguard thing is now taking off. So those are the legit guys, eh? Remember, the guys that have the bodyguards are legit, because they need to be protected. Now, we mentioned it yesterday or in the week. I said, why would you need bodyguards if you're not scamming or if you're legit? Like, people should technically love you. So why do you have bodyguards?
Bro, it's crazy, because I think these guys have made trading like a reality show, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they've made it like you're a celebrity if you're a profitable trader, bro. You know what I mean? It's so stupid to me, dude. Like, if I see, it's crazy. I actually can't believe it that we've been talking about it. Like, and I see what you're talking about. And the other thing is, for some reason, when guys buy new cars and they're traders, they tend to stand on the car for some reason, bro. And I'm like, dude, why are you standing on the thing, bro? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
It's funny because I feel we all know who he's talking about there.
No, listen here, but on a serious note, are we talking about the man that's got the 70s hairstyle, Keeks?
Yeah, that one.
All right. We actually want to get him on here as well. But again, like I mentioned, guys, I really want to thank Carl for being on the stream. We didn't want to do like a podcast scenario. I think that's also becoming saturated. Like, you can only ask a guy so many things. I think where there's a gap really in the industry is more on the psychology. And I think that is something we should maybe look at in the future, is doing more events where it's not necessarily only trading, but more networking in terms of providing business advice, because ultimately trading is not the beginning and the end of everything. Like, we tend to think like flip trading is everything, but there's a life outside of trading. There's business opportunities outside of trading. There's opportunities for business within trading. And I think it's something that we should look at, potentially having more networking events, basically broadening our view as to how you can collaborate, because I think it was Hein that mentioned it, like, guys at the top don't compete, they collaborate, because there's a lot of strength in say a few guys coming together doing an initiative, then you trying to forge on your own. So that is something that we will look at as well in the future. I've already spoken to Carl. We're potentially going to do an event with him here in Port Elizabeth. We'll talk about the logistics on that as well. I'm very keen to host Carl. Either it's going to be something more intimate within the office, otherwise we will get a bigger venue, and we'll get Carl here as well. And Carl, will that be something more like a course? Would it be more like a short course type format? What did you have in mind for that?
Yeah, bro, I think something like that would be cool. Maybe like a seminar. We just cover, the most important parts of trading. I'm a very big advocate for not everything, has to be paid for. You know what I'm trying to say? And obviously, the reason why most things are going to cost you money in terms of courses and stuff is because obviously there's been a lot of work and labor being put into it, and it's obviously not like I'm teaching you how to play FIFA, but it's literally teaching you how to actually make money. So, but I am a very big advocate for really just changing people's perspectives when it comes to trading, and actually providing them with the right knowledge for them to actually find success. And like I said, we've all been through the journey. We've all gone through the difficult times, and I do think that it can be a lot easier than what it was made for us. You know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, I think like something like a short course, we cover some psychology, we cover some technical analysis if we really wanted to, cover some risk management, risk to reward, and really just change people's perspectives and hopefully help them to change the way that they see trading and the narrative that they speak about it in general.
I think just also Kyle has mentioned mentorship quite a few times, and I've actually seen a few messages about it in the chat, and I think the one was actually just quite important. So I just want to know, like, Kyle, in your opinion, for even yourself, when it came to choosing the Amber Rule, what was it for you that made you choose the mentor that you did, that kind of aligns with your vision and what you want to target and what you want to go for? Because as we know, there is a lot of different mentorships and programs and things out there, but ideally, what for you would you look for which would make you do that guy's mentorship?
That's a good question, bro. I think, like I said earlier, the market's so saturated with these guys that are selling like a false narrative and selling a big dream to people. Like every second guy is talking about how you can, make millions within a couple of weeks and et cetera. And I think just being realistic with it and asking yourself, if that was the case, like, what are the odds of it actually happening? So for me, just the things that Raul preached back then, discussing the reality of trading and being as transparent as he was. He always used to show his losses and always used to talk about risk management, risk to reward, and what the most important parts are of trading, and always used to talk about how almost like exposing the fakes in the industry, bro. You know what I mean? And like explaining why this is not the way that trading works, and et cetera. And he used to always have these long videos on YouTube explaining the reality of trading, that you're not going to be sitting on a beach, trading every day, that you're not going to be, making R1 million from a 12 Rand deposit, things like that. And I was like, okay, and then second of all, his track record, bro, like he's extremely transparent. He's shown his MyFX book multiple times. He's been on live interviews with FTMO as the highest payout, with the actual dashboard and the proof there. He's shown withdrawals, he's shown deposits, he's shown not just like an email or a withdrawal that could be edited, like on actual video footage where he proves that it's not a screenshot and actually shows you, listen, this is withdrawing it. He shows his withdrawal, he shows it going into his crypto wallet, he shows it going from his crypto wallet to his bank account. And I was like, nah, this guy's doing the most, bro. I think it's worth it for me to actually, go and get this guy's course and get his mentorship. And yeah, bro, for me as a mentor, for people like us, I strive to be as much like him as possible, because I don't think there's anybody really in South Africa that does that to his extent. You know what I mean? So I try and show the reality, bro. I show my deposits, my certificates, my as much as I can to show my credibility as a full-time trader. And I try and show the reality as much as possible as well. On when I'm in a losing streak, there's nothing for me to hide, because my main goal is to push out the truth and be as transparent as possible. So I have nothing to hide. I don't have anything to hide. And don't get me wrong, when I say You know, you can make a lot of money in trading. You can make a stupid amount of money in trading. You know what I'm trying to say? It's probably the most liquid industry out there. But with that being said, you need to actually be approaching it as a business and not just thinking you're going to be coming into the market, dropping a deposit into a broker and, you know, trading in news events and changing your whole family's existence. You know what I mean? So, yeah, for me, it just comes down to transparency, and what that person actually preaches at the end of the day. You can clearly see those guys who are, you know, getting into rented cars and trying to boast with like wads of cash, and I'm like, bro, does your broker like come to your house and drop the cash off for you, or like how do you do your withdrawals, bro? Because I've never withdrawn and the money just falls out of the sky, you know what I mean? So guys who have like wads of cash, and stay away from guys who are constantly trying to like flash actual hard money and things. Like, it's very obvious to me personally, it's very obvious to see who's actually doing it and who isn't. So yeah, just focus on what people are preaching, and the results of not just their own results, but the results of their members are extremely important. See if their members are actually doing well or not. And if their members are doing well, then there's obviously a big difference between being a trader and being a good trader and being a good teacher. You know, you might be an amazing trader, but it's difficult for you to elaborate certain topics, you know, through words, you know what I mean? So you need to also see whether that person is a fit for you as an actual teacher and not just a trader himself. So focus on, you know, the results that his members are getting as well, and the feedback that he's getting from his members, etc., etc. So, you know, that's pretty much what it came down to for me when I chose my mentor, bro.
Guys in the chat, please tell me, is that still appealing? Standing on the cars, posting 7 pictures around the same car, having wads of cash. Just let me know, is that still a thing? It should be a thing, because I see the Oaks are still doing it. And we actually spoke about it as well. There's a difference, weirdly enough. Usually the Oaks that are providing very good value and actual actionable insights don't have a big following. But the guys that only have cars, watches, money, but there's no value in terms of you looking at a guy standing on his car, there's absolutely, like, how is that benefiting you in your trading? To be honest, like, I'm gonna take pictures on my cars and I'm gonna lay on them, and all you'll see is drone pics of my car, me standing on it. I'm also gonna get 100,000 Rand in cash, and I'm gonna always like flex it here and wave it and hold it on my ear. Is that what the trading community wants? Is that helping the trading? I just want to see you in the chat. If you guys can let me know, because then we can do a lot more of that, if that is helping the trading community. We just see.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do more of that, bro, because obviously these guys have... You know what the funny thing is, bro, is if you go into the people that are following them, it's just these random O's from some planet. I don't know, their names are all numbers and things like that. So I don't know if it's even real people following them, but I think it's
Manmat saying motivation is good, but money is silent.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, the weird thing is, like, money does not change you as a person. I know for some guys, I've had this question, is that you would ask them, is that something that motivates you? And they almost like, no, it just shows that they do have wealth in terms of trading. Like, he does have a nice car, he's got the watch, he's got the house. And I'm like, okay, fine, if that is how you're going to scale him on his credibility. But the thing is, if you come, it's a thing. Some of this FX venture guys bought the RS3. All of them in their team took pictures individually, posting them. So that is also something, Carl, we can look at. If 5 or 6 of us buy, for instance, like a Porsche or a McLaren, and we can basically do like a partnership, 10% each. And then we just do photo shoots with it, and we can keep it at one garage. So that's definitely, guys, we'll do that. That's a very good idea. We can take pics with the car, and we all marginally own 5 or 10% of it. No, so we want to see charts, trades being taken. Anyways, guys.
So guys, I think we also mentioned it the other day, like we were saying, you get these guys that have like 3 cars, their little Golf GTI and so on, and like a BMW 320D, but they're living in a 1-bedroom place where, again, you got these proper guys, for example, like the big boys, the Wall Street traders. You don't see them on Instagram, but I can guarantee you that man's making bags.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, it's sad because it kind of like dampens. For me, as a childhood dream has always been, I've been a car guy all my life, you know what I mean? And it kind of dampens it for guys like us who actually have worked extremely hard to get to the level that we're at the moment. You know what I mean? So when you do post a photo of your car or a lifestyle reel or something like that, you try your best to not be in that bracket that those guys are, and not be as like stereotypical as those guys are. But it's sad, bro. It's sad to see that this is what it's gotten to, and I think if trading was just seen a little bit more professionally, then it would be a different story. But people tend to think because it's so easily accessible and you can just drop money in a broker today and trade NFP right now without any prior experience or anything, like people can just literally they take it like it's a joke, you know what I mean? And I don't even know where it started, bro. I don't even know where it started, where that was like the credibility. You get credibility because you're driving a
Bro,
M4.
The weird thing is I told the chat as well, I think early in the week, when I started, there were no Forex gurus like on Instagram. It was literally you had to search the internet, you had to like see some weird online courses. You don't know if you're gonna get a course. The guys in South Africa were doing like Facebook groups and you were like all over. And then I would say around about 5-6 years ago, that entire flexing thing came in. And I don't know if I think it started in the US, because I think it's a big thing, like status and that symbol of money and flexing is a big thing in the US. And I think that transposed over to South Africa, where it became this thing of I need to flex. I need people to see my car, my house, my clothes that I wear. But it's a very weird thing that is the basically the stake that you get measured against in terms of what you do. Because let's say, for instance, you don't necessarily want to drive a sports car, but you've got, say, a 20 property portfolio. You've got 20 million rand, 30 million rand in property, and you drive let's say just a standard Fortuner. It's not necessarily depicting where your funds are. So Carl, I really appreciate you coming on, brother. Thank you so much for joining. I will let you guys know. We will definitely let everybody know what we're going to do in terms of Carl coming to Port Elizabeth. So the offices are open in PE. We're actually having our launch event on the 8th. That is next Friday. It is a VIP only event, and we've only invited guys that drive sports cars, especially Italian sports cars, because we need the photos of them, and they actually also need to have a Rolex. And what is that other? Is it tequila, Keegs, or is it, what is that?
The Azul tequila, the AKA only tequilas for traders.
And it's I'll bring a bottle of Hennessy for us, and I'll like throw it on the ground and stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna actually pop a bottle of, is it Azul? Tizul? I don't know, dude. I'm too old for this, but yeah, it will only be Azul. We won't be drinking it. We'll be throwing it on the floor. Expensive bottles of champagne will be popped, sprayed in the air, and we'll.
I'm just thinking though, but Carl mentioned it. Did you actually see that video of the guy pouring Hennessy on his car?
Don't tell me this. But we're gonna spray.
Our favorite trader.
We're gonna spray the champagne and just like stick out our tongues, get a little bit of it. Not allowed to go into a glass. Needs to be in the air. And but yeah, Carl, I really appreciate it, brother. We're gonna chat about the event and be sure to follow Carl. I think his Instagram handle is in the description. If not, we'll sort that out. But it is Carl_James_LLC on Instagram. Be sure to give him a follow. Show him some love. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Carl. Thanks for joining, brother.
Appreciate, bro. Appreciate.
Keeks, any?
That was always good having you, my man.
Guys, remember to buy my robot, the Sniper V212.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
You know what it is? You know what it is? You know what it is, guys.
You know what it is? Sniper version 2.0 coming right here. Absolutely sniping the market to pieces.
Unspoken res, 99% res rate.
Never buy a second-hand A45, RS3 or GTI. I think for more transparency is key. Guys, we're gonna get back to the charts. As mentioned, I do expect price to trade around the daily pivot. MGI, I'll get back to you on the pivot. It's just an indicator that you can pop on your chart. It's pivot standard. Chris, the quiz. What quiz? Did I miss something? Someone in the chat saying the quiz. Let me just see. I don't know about a quiz. The quiz for every trader is where's price going next for the next 4 or 5 hours. That is the quiz we need to answer every day. And where do we get in? But ultimately, guys, not much for me. What I'm seeing on gold, though, as I mentioned, I do think we're going to trade very close to this daily pivot. We're still in the Asia range. I also mentioned we can get something like that, pop the Asia range, pop the Asia lows, and they'll park it right here before NFP. It's not guesswork. It's sitting in front of the charts for thousands and thousands of hours. Again, I mentioned the daily pivots are. And I think Keegan, you don't trade pivots, but I've shown Keegan as well. At every single fundamental news event, we're trading around the pivot, and everything happens around the daily pivot. So that is why.
And I mean, just you add to it, like we've actually touched it in the office, and how many times, like we always say, like that's the thing about trading is you can mark out or you can approach the market so many different ways, but you always alternately all see the same end result. And Chris and I have taken trades where we've approached it completely differently. But for example, he'll have a pivot area somewhere, and on my chart, I would have marked that out as, for example, a daily key level. And again, it's just literally looking at it as different things, but at the end, it's still the same.
Yeah, coming back to that, it's almost like, let's say for instance, the ICT setup. You all know I love trading Asia lows, Asia highs, and for instance now, somebody that came to the charts this morning that's trading ICT and trading his TGIF setup. Thank goodness it's Friday setup. This setup here is basically that setup where the Asia lows have been taken. Price then creates this change of character, break structure to the upside, and now for the ICT guys, they marked out their charts and it's kill zones and it's fibs and it's all of that. And I pull a fib here, and as you can see here, here's the OTE zone, but literally all it is, it's Asia lows being held. It's literally price holding a level, as I've mentioned before. Like I can take this trade based off, say, this mini 5-minute structure break. My indicators tell me I need to go long on this, and I long it, and the ICT guy basically jumped through all of those hoops to see this, and all I literally saw was Asia lows. We broke it. We came back into the range, we held it again, and now the high probabilities for it to go to fill out the Asia range and then to potentially continue higher. That is why I always say the market is just levels. If you think about algos don't see market structure. Like I've got no problem with ICT. I think a lot of his concepts are good, but in terms of guys talking about the algo, this and that. The algo is not looking at candles, guys. Let's be very honest. The algo looks at volume. The algo looks at certain levels of supply and demand. And when we talk about supply and demand, it's actually talking about there's literal orders sitting in a demand zone. Guys have literal buy orders stacked in the market. And once the market hits those levels, those orders get fulfilled. Or guys that are, let's say the market is more lean towards the bullish side, there's going to be certain levels where sell orders are going to get triggered, where oaks are going to get out of the market. And it's all based on horizontal levels. So therefore, like Carl said, trading is not difficult. Please explain how you got to the conclusion of the day being bearish on gold. You saw Sanjay spamming the chat there, but if you go to the start of the stream, we actually went through it, but I'll show you one more time how I got to that conclusion. So as you can see here, this was a previous area of rejection. I also mentioned that I am going with a bearish tilt. I'm not saying we are going to go bearish. I'm going with the bearish tilt due to the fact that for the most part of the week we pushed up. I also mentioned that we can pull back to this daily area 1930 to potentially continue bullish, but we can potentially push down because the market is quite extended. We've only had 2 bearish days within, I think, 12 days of price action, if I'm not mistaken. So pullbacks do occur, but we also have the scenario where today can literally push up like this and close above this area, and next week we can continue on to the next range that we've got up here. But for now, if we were going to close above this area, price would have pushed through and it would have come back to retest that area, but we are now currently rejecting it. Going down to the 5-minute time frame, as I mentioned, I'm looking at my daily pivot area, and the area that I want to monitor is 1942.35. This is the area where price will most likely be ranging around. And after NFP, there's 2 things that's going to happen at this level. You're either going to get a massive push away from it, or you're actually going to see price before NFP pushing up, and you're going to get some type of structure break below it, and it's going to flush out to the downside. But like I mentioned, my entire thing is price is going to be locked around the daily pivot. It's not guesswork. When we do the NFP stream at 2 o'clock today, I've got certain rules as to how I execute on NFP. I don't trade before the event. I don't stack or spam buys. There's a literal setup that I wait for, and if it presents itself, it's got a 90% win rate. And the guys that are in the office have seen me take the trade live in front of them. They know I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not guessing at any stage of the word. I'm literally waiting for a setup to present itself, and there's no thinking. It's literally 2 things I look for. If both are there, I execute. If they are not there, we call it a week. We're done for the week. We come back next week. But there are ways to trade the news, and I will be trading that live at 2. But that is the case. Like I mentioned, we're still in the Asia range. We got a potential bearish tilt, but we're trading what we see, not what we feel. But we come with a bias at the start of the session. Albert, we can do the disclaimer, but I'm not. There's no trades that I can take in this session, so the disclaimer not really needed. But again, guys, it's not financial advice. This is purely for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please seek advice from your financial advisor. Kiggs, I think on that note, because we are going to have a long day for 2 o'clock, guys, we're going to call it a stream. 2:15, tune in for the live NFP. Alverno, well done on your account. We're going to send those funds to you right now as well. Your account will be funded for NFP. And Carl, appreciate you coming on. We will see you. We will see you guys 2:15 for Full Margin Friday. I already did the disclaimer, not really, but gonna try.
Yeah, guys, just again another massive thanks for Carl for joining us today.
I appreciate you guys letting me in as well. I appreciate it so much.
No, we appreciate you, but thanks, man. And we will see you guys this afternoon, 2:15, NFP. Check it on the channel. And if you have not yet liked the stream, please feel free to like the stream. And we will see you guys this afternoon.